Okay, you know how it is when you first meet someone, or even when you just see somebody? There's that bing that goes off right away. You notice whether they are a man or a woman. It's just boom, all of a sudden. And you talk to them one way for a man and one way for a woman.
I suppose.
Okay, no. It doesn't make you like a chauvinist or anything. It's just something we all do, except for Jesus. It's like that bing never went off in his head. You weren't a woman or a man to him. You were just a person. And when Jesus would talk to you, he would talk straight to your soul.
Then why is it that the women aren't really known that well? Yours is the only name we've been able to find.
Not every name gets remembered, but that doesn't make those people less important. Jesus sent 70 people out in pairs to spread the good news. How many of them can you name?
I don't know. I don't really think I've got that information in front of me.
That's right, you don't. Just like you don't have the names of the other women. There's a bunch of us. There was Susanna and the other Mary, the one married to Clopas, and a lot of Marys, sometimes even Jesus' mother Mary, but she was always at the end. Oh, and there were others too. Joanna?
You know what? Actually, I think that we have heard of Joanna's name before. Isn't she the one with some royal connections?
Royal connections? What? Not hardly. Her husband, Chusa, worked for Herod, the big sellout. He was the butler. He might have washed the royal dishes, but that's about it.
Okay, I get it.
See, that's what you've never heard of any of the women. You heard of Joanna by mistake. Someone thought she was famous or something. If you hadn't been mistaken for someone royalty, you wouldn't have even heard of her at all. Royalty. That's rich. Hey, Joanna, are you watching this? This is crazy. No. The women kept a lower profile than the men. The men were out running around, spreading the word of Jesus, casting out demons, all that frontline stuff that gets noticed.
So then you women worked more kind of like behind the scenes.
Yeah, that sounds about right, but we were able to help out in ways that men couldn't.
In what ways would that have been?
We provided money.
Money? You mean you kind of helped financially?
Where do you think all that money came from? Even wandering around, camping outside in different towns, that's not free. We would occasionally get donations from charity, but they were never consistent. Some of us women had money that we could spare, and so that's how we contributed. Well, that and sticking by Jesus no matter what.
Okay. Well, why don't we build on that a little bit? Would you take a minute just to tell us how it is that you first met Jesus?
I met him the same way all the other women met him. Most of us are people who were sick or had other problems. Jesus changed our lives.
Why the name Magdalene? Why?
Magdalene.
Magdalene.
Mm-hmm. Because there were so many Marys that you couldn't keep us all straight. So Jesus came up with different nicknames for us. I'm from Magdala, so I got the name Magdalene.
Where would Magdala be located?
I see you don't have that in front of you either. Yeah. Magdala is right on the Sea of Galilee, on the west side. It's known for its salt business, one of the most important ports in the industry.
Which then perhaps would account for your somewhat salty past?
What? That was totally uncalled for. You didn't make cracks like that at Peter or even to Pilate.
I'm sorry, I guess I should apologize for that.
Okay, listen. I know there are a lot of rumors out there about my past, about how I got my money, about my morals, but they're all just rumors. There's no proof. Go ahead and look through your Bible, cover to cover. You won't find anything about it. That accounts for my salty past. I'm going on Oprah tomorrow. You can bet she won't say anything about that.
Probably not. And you're right, Ms. Magdalene. Again, I apologize. I certainly don't want to be accused for spreading unsubstantiated rumors.
Okay, not that my past was perfect. It's just that it really doesn't matter anymore. Jesus changed my life.
So on that point, you had indicated that a lot of women who followed Jesus were healed by him. Is that true?
Well, yes, everybody who follows Jesus does it because he changed their lives. In my case, well, it may not sound familiar to your audience.
Well, but please, go on, please do. What happened in your case?
Okay. Well, those of you in the West don't usually think in these terms, so this will probably sound really crazy to you, but Jesus changed my life by casting demons out of me.
Demons?
Yup, I told you. It's how you Westerners are used to thinking. But yeah, demons. 7 of them.
And could you describe what were these demons?
Well, it's not that easy, you see. I'd say that it's just that the things that used to haunt me don't really anymore. You know, the things that used to hold me back from being all that I am meant to be don't anymore. Those things are gone. Jesus changed my life.
I understand that you had said that you were with Jesus at the crucifixion. Is that right?
I couldn't leave him. Most everyone did. All the guys except John. He stayed. And some of us women stayed. Most of them Marys again. Jesus' own mother was there. We were standing right under the cross at first, but after a little while, the soldiers made us back up. Said we were causing a scene. They're killing people on phone poles, and we're the ones causing a scene? I wished I was up there with him, on that cross. I died that day. I kept breathing, but I died.
Please, what happened the next day?
Well, first, I have to finish the night at the crucifixion, and I stayed there. And then he screamed, and I cried. He stopped moving. I froze. They speared him in the side, and my heart bled. Finally, they took him down. Some guy, Joseph of somewhere, said that he was a follower of Jesus too, though I'd never heard of him before. He volunteered some use of his cave to bury Jesus. After all that, it's kind of a blur. The next day, I remember having to be dragged away from the tomb, but I don't really remember going home.
Okay, then that's what all happened. Then what about that next day?
Nothing. The next day was the Sabbath, so that's what you have to do. Nothing. So we just paced, planning what we would do the next day, as soon as it was daylight. Actually, we weren't even supposed to be pacing. Did you know that on the Sabbath, you're supposed to count your steps?
What were you planning on doing?
Well, finish the burial, of course. All this time, they didn't have time to do it on Friday. And all they could do was wrap him in a sheet. Of course, that's not good enough, so we wanted to go back. We had potpourri, like 100 pounds of it, a ton. So we were going to give him a proper burial, like he deserved.
And so then the next morning, you finished the funeral.
No.
No?
No. We didn't have to. The grave was empty.
We have heard this. We've heard a number of different accounts of people saying that Jesus had actually risen from the dead.
Yeah, I'm saying Jesus rose from the dead. And don't give me this hysterical woman stuff or I'll deck you.
Oh my. No, that's okay. I wouldn't think of it, all right? So where did you see him?
In the garden, right outside of the tomb. When we got close, we saw that the tomb was open. There had been this huge rock in front of it.
So what did you do?
Well, I went and told the 12, or 11, I guess. And Peter and John ran straight for the tomb.
But didn't you tell our planner and our supervisor here that you saw Jesus personally?
Well, yeah, I went back to the tomb, and when I got there, Peter and John had already been there and gone. But there were these two men in white suits. They were sitting in the tomb where the body was supposed to be, right? So they said something about looking in the wrong place, and I panicked, of course, right? And I turned around and shot out of the tomb, and there's this guy there, like right there, and he's tall, and I'm looking down and wiping my eyes, and I say, if you moved him, tell me where you put him, because we bought all this stuff to finish the burial. And then this guy speaks, and he says, Mary. And I look up, and it's Jesus.
So what in the world are you planning on doing now?
Same thing I'm doing right this minute. Tell people about Jesus, about how he can change your life, about how he rose from the dead. First, I told the 12, well, 11, and now I'm telling you. He talks right to your soul, and he's alive.
Man, this is an incredible story. It's been building. I got to thank you so much for your willingness to be with us tonight, and thank you particularly for sharing your story.
You're welcome. That's what I do. That's what I'll always do, is tell that story.
Well, good night, Mary.
Peace.
And again, thank you so much for being with us and being willing to be a part of our program tonight.
It's my pleasure.
Good night. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The story of Jesus of Nazareth just seems to keep escalating and becoming more amazing by the moment. Join us next week when we have the privilege of interviewing one of those other 11 men, John, known as the youngest in this group of Jesus, known as the 12. This is Dateline Jerusalem. Good night.